Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
I know for a fact it is getting tougher for us to get free traffic from Google. They want us to pay for it.
Yep.
And if TripAdvisor has to pay for traffic,
and their prices have to go up.
The prices have to go up and things are going to change.
They come to relax, enjoy the beach, have fun, and spend money. And that's where we come in. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. Find out tips on the best ways to market and operate a water sports business. If you're a water sports operator, you need to grow your brand, operate more safely, upgrade your operations, and of course, increase bookings. We're industry veterans, broadcasting from Destin, Florida. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. And this is Kevin O'Neill and Greg Fisher.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Awkward Watersports podcast. I'm your host, Greg Fisher. Got Kevin O'Neill with me today. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good.
Yeah? Good 4th of July week?
Yeah, we're good. I feel like it should be like episode 102.
Why is that?
I don't know, because it just sounds more badass. It'd be like, oh man, there's like so many episodes we need to catch up on.
I know.
But then they would just go back to the only one that was there.
How many times do we think about what we're going to talk about and then we change it 4 times because there's so much to talk about?
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. So, speaking of what we're going to talk about.
That was the most natural segue.
I know.
Speaking of what we're going to talk about.
So today we're going to talk about TripAdvisor.
I'm excited.
And I think TripAdvisor is a great topic to talk about because it has changed so much in the past 3 years, I should say. Maybe 2 years. I mean, everything has really changed with TripAdvisor.
Yeah. You know what's really changed? Their stock price.
Yeah.
And that was before COVID.
I know.
So
they've been getting lots of competition from other travel sites and Google.
Yeah,
you know?
So to anybody who's not familiar with TripAdvisor, I think we look at them as titans of the industry. They've been around forever. So if you're not familiar with TripAdvisor, and I think somebody listening to this in probably 3 years probably won't be, I personally think they're going off a cliff probably pretty quick. But TripAdvisor used to be this site where you could get kind of organic reviews. They were very known. Yelp was the bad one. TripAdvisor was a good one. Yelp, you could do there's all sorts of stuff you could do to kind of manipulate your ranking, but TripAdvisor was organic. Being number one at TripAdvisor had value to it. There was, it was being number one on TripAdvisor was a thing because they had a community.
And their business model basically was content driven.
Yep.
And then they monetize with advertisements.
Yep.
And also affiliate programs. So they would, try to get traffic to the site, which they did really well at it.
Yep.
And then they would try to sell you with, hotel, they partner with hotel booking sites.
Yep.
They would sell listings to accommodation, restaurant providers. So they had mainly an affiliate model and advertisement model. I mean, that was their big thing when they started.
Yeah.
And then about 5 years ago, TripAdvisor decided that just wasn't good enough.
Yeah. We got greedy.
And they started to, they bought Viator, which is a huge OTA for online activity tour booking. They actually still are, I believe, one of the largest, if not the largest, activity tour booking sites in the world.
They acquired Groupon.
Actually, they didn't acquire Groupon.
They didn't?
They did not. No. It might seem like it. They have a partnership with.
Partnerships.
Yeah.
So why is Viator intrinsically tied into Groupon then?
Because they have a distribution agreement. They distribute. So if you're, this is funny because I had an operator about a year ago call me and he's like, he thought that we were putting their product listings on Groupon. And I said, no, that's not us. We don't have no partnership. And what it came to is that he had a relationship with Viator, and Viator Viator was distributing them through Groupon. And my guess is that Viator and Groupon have an affiliate agreement where if Groupon fulfills the order, they get a commission share. I'm sure that's got to be the way it works.
You schooled me on that one.
Yeah.
Good work, Pound It.
But they have purchased, other reservation software, Bokun, which is an activity tour booking software.
And they have a bunch of sites. Like they own a ton of sites.
Yeah, they have a ton of sites. So then they said they started, they got into more into the hotel booking side of things. So you can actually book your hotel right on TripAdvisor.
Yeah. Then they got in the tourism, the tour and activity side of things that they didn't used to. You could go on a TripAdvisor, and I feel like you could find out in any given market. You could really get an honest portrayal of who was like number one on TripAdvisor, who was number two on TripAdvisor, who was number three on TripAdvisor, and now it's much more driven toward who pays them the most,
who pays the most,
who books
the
them.
most,
and they do all sorts of fun little tricky things. They'll put somebody else who's selling that they're selling through their site on your listing. They do TripAdvisor does all sorts of fun little neat stuff
let's take it back
to what they used to be.
Yeah. So I always admire TripAdvisor because I felt they did a good job curating reviews, and I felt their rankings for top activities, top restaurants, I felt they were very legit. Would you agree?
100. Well, because they had a community. If you were like people were active in their forums, people were active on review sites, like people were like big on TripAdvisor. Like it was like a thing to be like a part of their community and actively like, I'm going to go leave a review on TripAdvisor, not on Google.
When I would travel, I would always use TripAdvisor, and I was pretty much 90% sure I got the right, I booked the right activity, booked the right
restaurants,
And then as a business, what do we do as businesses? Every time our customers came, we told them, make sure you leave a review on TripAdvisor, right? So, between the users and the businesses, we built TripAdvisor to a behemoth.
Here's funny. So yesterday I took my friend out. And Key West is still like, I feel like they're like, usually like Key West is like leads the charge, and I don't know if it's more of like because they're doing more international travel, but TripAdvisor still really means a lot to them down there.
Yeah.
So anyway, a friend of mine came out on the boat and she was like, we went out with her parents and then she was like, yeah, you're number one on TripAdvisor. And I was like, I just went, oh yeah. Like, I remember when I first started, I was like, I came into this market and I was like, TripAdvisor, man. Like, I was looking around at TripAdvisor and I was like, wow, no one's really like hitting TripAdvisor super hard, So we went really hard on TripAdvisor like those first 2 years. And then we went to number one or whatever. And then when we started working with them, like on the OTA side of things, I realized like how little it truly mattered. And then the relationship completely changed.
So, we built as a community between businesses and users, we built TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor created a great platform. We built this community.
Yeah.
They had, thousands upon thousands, millions of reviews, I would say, all over the world. And then they decided they're going to switch their model.
Yep.
And they curated all this great content, and now they want to monetize it. Because at the time, tour operators, water sport operators, no one's paying to be part of TripAdvisor. The payment is you recommend users to TripAdvisor, and then we give you access to our ranking system and views and clicks to your website. That's kind of how the model was.
Yep.
We were ancillary to them.
Certified excellence, little owl.
We, water sport operators were really there to build the platform up so they could sell advertising to CVBs, sell advertising to hotels, and book hotel rooms. That was their model. Convention and Visitors Bureau.
There you go. We got it. We got to watch the acronyms.
I know. So then they said after a while, I guess, being they're a public company, they got to, they're trying to take advantage of all this traffic they're getting. So they decided, let's buy Viator and let's get all of these operators bookable on their TripAdvisor page, because all these operators are sending people to TripAdvisor. Let's capitalize on that.
Yeah.
So
traffic's not enough.
So
building our community wasn't enough.
Operators that spent years building up their ranking, now they were forced to either become a bookable product at 25% or more, or potentially lose the exposure of what you built.
Was not 25% or more. So it was to each market. So TripAdvisor, depending on how many operators they had in the market, had a very flexible their model, their percentage model, you could actually just scale it. So you'd create your MSRP and then you would just start wherever you wanted. You could start at 1%. Okay. And then they wouldn't accept it because it was like all through their back end, all through API. So you set the parameters. So you start at 1%. So that's what I did. I'm like 1%, 2%, 3%. And finally the minimum threshold was 15% because that was Fort Walton's market. I only paid 15%. And so certain markets though, like Key West, they were at like maybe 20 or 25, whatever the TripAdvisor deemed like what their fair market value was. And so, over in Europe, they were paying like up to like 30 and 40%. So basically TripAdvisor looked at each market in and of itself and then dictated if it was like a new emerging market and you could get in for pretty cheap. And then that changed.
Yeah. That's actually a fair way of doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So, when they started changing over to a performance-based model from just the review, I had a lot of questions and concerns about that because, you know, when a TripShock traveler books a trip and goes with you, you're not telling that person, you know, next time, go, you know, leave a review on TripAdvisor and book with me next time on TripShock. Like, that's not necessarily the flow of things. You know, you pay the commission for the customer, and you hope that next time that acquisition cost you paid to get that customer to Destiny Water Adventures, maybe they come back direct with me next time. But TripAdvisor, I feel like we're almost cannibalizing our businesses by telling people to go back and leave reviews and building this model where the customer goes to read the reviews on your business. They're already low in the funnel. So they already know that they want to go with this specific watersport company. But before they go, they're going to look up reviews on that business. And now there's a fat bookable button on TripAdvisor, which you are actively supporting or used to heavily support that. So you're heavily supporting a service that could potentially cannibalize your business.
There was a few things they did. So they experimented with erasing the company. So we talked in our first episode about commodities. Yeah. So they tried to erase companies' brands, and so they got rid of they experimented with it for a while. They got rid of the actual company's name listing. So basically, what companies would do is say, you know, we'll use my company for example. Why not? Partly my podcast. So so it'd be like book a boat or book an excursion with Destiny Water Adventures. So they tried getting rid of that and getting rid of the company's name on the listing. So the companies were pissed off about it, rightly so. And I understand what they're doing. They're trying to lower their acquisition costs. They don't lose those customers to the brand. And that's where things kind of got murky or whatever. But then what companies did to try and circumvent that was put pictures on their listings of their company's name. So then TripAdvisor started editing their photographs and started editing their content and making it harder. And there was such a blowback from the community and so many people that were just like leaving in droves TripAdvisor because they were editing their content and basically turning their brand into a commodity without their permission. And they've continually have done that. Like maybe not so directly, but yeah, like hiding the email address, hiding the contact information, like making it more difficult and more difficult for the customer to understand who they're doing business with. Like,
let me ask you something. So you've built your business utilizing TripAdvisor from the start, and now they flip-flop this model on you where you were very supportive.
They did go back though. They did go back and added, and there was such a pushback that they did. So now when you look up Destiny Water Adventures, you know, my brand is still there. My phone number is still there. If the customer wants to call us direct, they can call us direct.
And I think that's the right thing to do because you are still supporting them. I'm sure when you see people, you're not saying don't leave a review on TripAdvisor. You're still saying, I mean, we're all looking at TripAdvisor still as an authority of travel.
TripAdvisor.
You know, yeah. See, we don't even, and there are other businesses around here are not as passionate about telling their customers to leave reviews because now,
we don't. I do not partner with TripAdvisor.
Oh, you're done.
They're gone.
Okay. but just imagine if you're a bookable product on there and you're telling your customers, you know, you're putting the link on your website, you know, the certificate, you're telling customers to leave reviews. So you're basically building TripAdvisor into your business plan. But at the same time, if you're not a bookable product with them, what does your listing show? They're competitors. So for you listening, if you have a listing on TripAdvisor, if you are not a bookable product, if you're not partnered with them,
Yep.
and your
They will show your
competitor and your
competitors.
competitor is, they will show their products on your listing.
That's right.
So what do you say in a competitive market? What do you say to someone like that?
See you later.
Yeah.
Have fun.
So I had a partner who was in a situation, and they're like, well, I really hate that I built, I have hundreds of reviews on there. I've really put a lot of effort into using TripAdvisor and making it part of my business marketing. I don't want my competitors on there. Like I spent a lot of time. And so my recommendation was to sign up. If that really bothers you, sign up and just give TripAdvisor a small amount of tickets to sell. So that way your competitor's not on your listing, but you might be paying a high commission on those 10 tickets, but at least you don't got to have you have the peace of mind that your competitor isn't taking over that space that TripAdvisor gave to
So
them.
here's where my advice would be.
Okay.
I would say, fuck that, first of all. And then second, go after him. David versus Goliath, man. Like, I got no problem with it because I'm going to get in the mud and I'm just going to outwork them. Because the fact is they got to spend a lot of money to compete for organic reach.
And you're saying going after the competitor, not TripAdvisor.
No, I'm saying go after TripAdvisor.
As in like
SEO.
SEO, okay.
Marketing.
Okay.
Hard. Like, that's fine.
So you're saying like you just outdo them on
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day,
just work towards that.
I have no. Look, if somebody's like gonna look at the TripAdvisor rankings or whatever, and they're gonna go with my number 6 competitor because it's more easily to convert through TripAdvisor. So and they do. That's fine. At the end of the day, my customers their margins are not my customers, but my competitors' margins are so much thinner because they're like, okay, you're sold out and I'm sold out too without TripAdvisor. Like, I don't even need TripAdvisor in the shoulder season because I'm just going to go ahead and get in the dirt because I know that they're backing off their ad spend. They're backing off their marketing. They're backing off because the money's not there. So I can get in the weeds and I can get in the dirt. I can spend more money because at the end of the day, it's like if TripAdvisor charges me 25%, like I should be able to acquire that customer for 25%, like on my own, man. You know what I mean? Like,
well, would you say that TripAdvisor off? My guess is that for someone who has a lot of availability, let's say you have like a 150 passenger boat tour, and you're looking to really drive volume, and you can get some
advertise
eyeballs.
more.
Yeah, you can get some eyeballs on TripAdvisor.
Advertise on your own more. We're all in the same space, and that's what people have to understand. Like, TripAdvisor's not like creating any kind of magic. They're running ads, man. They're running ads. They're running remarketing. Like, you can do the same thing.
You don't think they have a brand?
What's that?
You don't think the brand that people go to see what's going, restaurants in the area, hotels in the area, and my guess is they do cross-sell, things to do, email campaign. I got an email from them the other day. It said, I wasn't looking in Orange Beach because I went recently on a vacation, and they sent an email to me because they probably saw that I haven't been to the site in a few days and said, hey, if you're thinking about Orange Beach, here are some things to do. And they had the bookable activities in a nice email to me. So
why can't you do that as an operator?
You can, but I'm saying
go on Active Campaign and go run an awesome direct marketing.
TripAdvisor has probably millions of reachable folks that have recently searched. Like, you can't access that.
Right, but you got to start somewhere. And that's fine. Like, you have to start somewhere, but eventually you have to start cutting away. Like, you have to start cutting away the fat as a business owner, as anything. Like, eventually you have to start leaning out your margin. Look, you want to start with TripAdvisor? That's great. So I would get creative about getting those people's emails first of all.
Yeah. So I think we are both in agreement that if you're a brand new business, it might not be a bad investment because you got to
if you want to get here's why
because you'll be squatting.
There's much cheaper ways that you can get top of funnel though.
Okay,
and there's much more inexpensive ways that you can reach that amount of eyeballs like through ad spend on cheaper. If I had to do it all over again, if I was starting a business straight from scratch, like a water sports business from scratch, like I would not participate with TripAdvisor. Now there's a whole host of things why I say that, but I'm a savvy marketer. Like I am a water sports guy. First, I dove in the water yesterday and rescued somebody. I mean, David Hasselhoff style. You know what I mean? So I'm a salty pirate first, but I'm also a pirate online You know what I mean? Just shy of number 2. So like if I'm not on the docks and I'm online trying to like figure out where I can acquire my customers, how can I start? Like if you're new, no, I would absolutely not use TripAdvisor. I would not, because here's the problem. So another thing TripAdvisor did with Bokun is that when they got their booking software and they started doing web development, web dev for people, they were doing like all in one. So hey, you're a new guy, you don't know anything about it, you just love being a salty pirate, Kevin O'Neill, you don't know how to design a website, you don't know how to book anything, here you go. We're going to do an all in one for you. All right. So they had Bokun. And so they built the website out for the operator. They did all the booking for the operator. They did everything for the operator. And then when they changed the terms of service, they went and changed that operator's back-end prices. And on top, because they weren't meeting TripAdvisor's terms of service and they weren't meeting the agreements with Bokun. So not only did they own their website, they owned all their traffic. TripAdvisor was their only source of income. And so it's like when TripAdvisor during COVID decided to shut off the water, like it was it. That was their only source. That was all those people had. And then on top of it, to go in and change their price on the back end because they're not meeting the lowest, they're not matching TripAdvisor on the lowest price. When TripAdvisor changed their price on the front end on TripAdvisor. So let's say you're selling your product for $100. And then TripAdvisor said, we're going to raise the price to 107 or 105, whatever it was. Because you were selling it for cheaper, Bokun raised their prices. Like, it's absolutely, to me, an aberration. Like, right then and there, like, I would have lost my mind.
Well, I think another thing, too, which obviously being an OTA, I understand, but there's like some places where you have to draw the line. Like TripAdvisor will raise your price if they feel like they could be getting more for your tour. And ethically, that is just flat out wrong to do.
Not even ethically. Hold on. That is so far over the line. That is so far over the line. That is beyond over the line, because I get it, man, but
it's an extension. Okay, so
you're not you, but TripAdvisor is an affiliate.
I know, but
you are reselling my product, and at the end of the day, that's my product, my brand. And if somebody goes out there and then they come in and go, "Wait a minute, if I bought direct from you, I could have got it for $99." Like, what the hell? That creates a bad relationship with your customer, and down the line that has reverberative effects as far as your acquisition prices down the line, because now you're not only are you're hurting your bottom line, man,
I know. So, in our terms and conditions for our site, we do ask for price parity. However, we will never change your
price parity,
pricing.
meaning price matching.
Price matching. But we will never go tell you or go to, because we can change pricing in our front end to what you charge. And we would never change your pricing and then email you and say, "Hey, Kevin, we changed our pricing because we saw this price." We would talk to you first and find out what's going on. And maybe it was a mistake. Sometimes people's pricing gets changed. They're like, "Oh, I didn't realize it. I'll just change it back." But they are taking kind of liberties to change things, even though it might be in the terms and conditions. There's sometimes things can be just a flat out mistake, but they require price match, but they can go in and raise your price on their front end if they feel they can get more money.
I won't even say that that's fine. Normally I'd be like, well, that's fine. I'm not even going to, I won't even give them that. I refuse to give them that, because at the end of the day, like, you as an OTA, as an affiliate, as a marketer, like, listen, I set the price, and if you can't live with that, then we don't have a relationship anymore, and that's what happened with TripAdvisor and me.
I don't think any OTA should be charging whatever they want, because that loses just the price integrity of the area. Like, if they start, we know in the middle of summer, for a lot of boat rental companies, they can be charging ridiculous prices. And TripAdvisor could very well go in there and raise the price $100. So you're saying, they're thinking it's okay that they can make, 60% commission or something ridiculous like that.
So what they did is they raised the price, and then they raised the commission. So I'm selling my thing for $100, and then they're like, oh, well, here's your 75. Well, first of all, it was 85 when we started. Now, per our agreement, I guess you can just change it willy-nilly whenever you want to. That's fine. And that's what they did. So they raised it up to 25, and then they started selling my product not for, they're giving me back my MSRP at 75, which was supposed to be 85, but now you're giving me 75. Now you're taking 25%, but then you're selling it for 110, and you're taking the 10? Oh, no, TripAdvisor. Methinks not. Now I'm glad that you proved that you can get it for 110. I'm going to go ahead and raise my price. Get rid of you, which is exactly what we did. And I couldn't have been happier after we did it. And then, additionally, they got rid of their whole call center staff. But you know where they don't get rid of their call center staff? For making outgoing calls. Because I get calls from them all the time. And I just hit end. No, thank you.
And you know, Kevin, if they had an account, you had an account rep, but you probably didn't have an account rep. But if you did, and they said, hey, Kevin, we have a lot of traffic and a lot of demand for this time period. We think that you can get more money for this tour. Here's a suggestion. You can say, oh, yeah, thanks for the information, for this insight. I might raise my prices. But to just, arbitrarily take that, just change it whenever they want because they might see an opportunity. That just gives I would feel, if I was in your shoes and an OTA is doing that and they're making a lot of extra money off of me, I would feel just kind of used a little bit. Like, this is not a partnership.
Yeah.
You're just making money off of me.
So here's why I suggested about like maybe you get in and then you put it in there. This is why I say no. And again, we're like in the most bizarre blue ocean / red ocean market in the world up here. Like, it just makes no sense. Like, it's like there's no such thing as oversaturation here. You could have 10 bazillion boats and they'd all go. And I think that's going to be a lot of very popular places to go just because of the sheer amount of people that there are in the world, man. We're up to like almost 8 billion people on the planet. So, people love to travel. And I think that there's just going to be a wide demand, especially in hot places as we heat up the planet. With those 8 billion people, they're going to want to go jump in the water. So the demand for water sports is just going to grow and grow and grow. And I think that's across Florida as a whole. But anyway, my point being though is the reason I said no, I don't mind it because let my competitor get booked up for 25%. And then they're also paying more to go through TripAdvisor. Let my competitor get booked up with that. And then when he's completely sold out from TripAdvisor, and I'm going to get all that sweet direct. All of my margins are just.
So I was speaking to someone. He has a reservation system in the Caribbean. He has a lot of catamaran operators sailing out. And I was talking to him about OTAs, and I asked him, like, is there more OTA bookings in the Caribbean than there was before? And he said, absolutely. Why is that? Because TripAdvisor is very popular in the Caribbean, and all these operators are now bookable. So their free TripAdvisor listings are now bookable listings, and they're basically cannibalizing their direct sales because they're bookable products on TripAdvisor. He said it went through the roof. The bookings through Viator and TripAdvisor, as soon as they started, becoming a OTA and start putting those bookable, those online bookings right from their listings.
I would want to see the data that would say like looking at all the traffic that's coming through for any given activity or restaurant or hotel or whatever it may be, and then see the percentage that comes through TripAdvisor, and then basically make my play on my marketing tactics against that. Because I'd say, well, okay, if there's, just like here, like you said, there's like 40% of the hotels on Okaloosa Island, but nobody ever who'd ever thought like that Fort Walton Beach could be like this huge market. And I'll tell you what, when I rolled up, like just knowing what I know about how vacations and hotels and how this stuff works, I was like, what are you talking about? I could throw a baseball from our location to like a bazillion hotels. There's like more hotels here than there is on 98. Like, I'm straight. I'm good right here. Let's go. So I would look at that, so I think there's a lot of like assumptions being made on the part of operators going like, because again, I have a friend who runs the Dolphin Eco Tour, and he's of this mindset, and it's because they are international, and he's correct, because they're coming from Europe and they're like trying to figure out Like, what's happening? So, like, you can look on TripAdvisor and find all this stuff in the States because TripAdvisor is pushing that organic traffic and that SEO in Europe for here.
In that scenario, that TripAdvisor's help discovering new customers for that business, that's valuable. And I would pay a commission.
It's not worth to me. It's not worth 30% to me.
Well, but you are booked up. I mean, you're booked up like 2 weeks in advance right now. So, but for someone who's in a highly competitive market that has a lot of seats to sell, and TripAdvisor is doing a good job discovering new customers for them that they wouldn't have got otherwise. Like, there's a guy I spoke to recently in Hilton Head. He has lots of big boats.
Well, let me stop you. I want to pause you. I want to stop you in the middle. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to. But so I've got to back up there. But so my question is are you seeing a lot of European customers from TripAdvisor? Because of TripAdvisor? Like, are your boats filled with Germans and French, but could your boat be filled with people from Miami because you direct marketed and you hustled that section of the market and filled up your boat with people for direct? So the only reason that you're filled with so many German people is because of TripAdvisor. But if you weren't on TripAdvisor and you were working this other section of traffic and you were owning your traffic, not renting it, not buying it over and over and over again, but you were owning that traffic, then you wouldn't even need them. Okay, cool, man. I'm going to take my money from Miami. I'm going to take my money from Idaho. I'm going to take my money from anywhere but Europe because it's costing me 30%, or some of those people are paying like 40% over there, man. Like, their entire business is predicated upon TripAdvisor. Now, I'm not shitting on OTAs, just so we're clear here. I'm specifically shitting on TripAdvisor, and I will because I'm just, again, so it's, you know, we have these conversations like all the time, and I know sometimes I come across as being like anti-OTA, but again, I'm not. I'm anti-service, and I feel that TripAdvisor does not have quality service, and when you get into more regional OTAs, and again, it's all kind of different depending on who you're working with. You know, you guys have good market managers. You know, we have a good relationship, clearly. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. You have good ethics. There's always someone on the other end of the phone. And the question is how can OTAs move forward going into the future and remain ethical, keep their customer service, and still grow and expand? And it's a question for all small business owners that are expanding into
I really
a larger realm.
You know, you've been burned a few times for TripAdvisor, and admittedly they are doing some things, and I think they're really just trying to figure it out. I think getting into activities was a stretch. I don't think they understood truly what they were getting themselves into. Yeah. And recently they made a ton of announcements about product criteria. They're charging for listings now.
I know, $29
to get a listing on there. They're really focused on, I mean, I'll tell you, the other day I was on Facebook and I'm looking on my feed and I see from Viator, like top activities in your area, and the pictures of the products within the carousel image, they were upside down. So
awesome.
They have some things to work out. They really need to start adding value to their users. They have so much product, they have a ton of potential, but they really need to get their value proposition nailed down. And the fact that operators all these years have propped them up, telling their customers leave reviews.
They're gone. I feel like they're gone, man. Like I feel like, and I know, and it's like, and I feel like I like what TripShock's done, and you guys are niching down, and I think that's a good thing, man. You know, I think that's a really good thing because, man, it just, TripAdvisor is just, they have been going down like for a long time, and it really, I think it's, man, it's just against you. You're fighting for traffic and paying for traffic with your competitor. Like Google is your direct competitor, man.
TripAdvisor's having challenges because Google is not wanting to send their traffic to a third party.
That's right.
You know, and I know for a fact it is getting tougher for us to get free traffic from Google. They want us to pay for it.
Yep.
And if TripAdvisor has to pay for traffic,
and their prices have to go up.
The prices have to go up, and things are going to change, or they're going to just start advertising less. That's going to be a great opportunity.
Do you think they're poised for a sell-off? I think they are. I think they're positioning for a sell-off.
Yeah, there's a possibility, but I don't even know who would buy them other than Amazon or
and here's why. Because they went for such a cash grab so fast that's what it looked like to me. And they're doing all these like weird things to try and like gain more, like to like make their margins look better, because at the end of the day, like we're all, I mean, and I hope that it's not like, you know, some type of Ray Kurzweil singularity, like Google flying the circle, Dave Eggers. I'm referencing a lot of technology,
I know, but I do agree with you.
Google is taking over everything.
It seemed like the past couple of years there might be a cash grab. They're trying to get more money per business. They're implementing.
What I'm saying is that eventually, like Google's going to own everything. Like when you look at their flow, when you look at the way everything is set up, and there's been this huge run. There's just been this huge run toward the past from operators and groups of operators going like, well, what if we create like a free OTA and like let's figure out how to make TripAdvisor like what it was and let's redo that. It's too late. Like that, like that bridge to nowhere is gone. Like Google has figured that out. When you look at Google, when you look at the way, I mean, you book your hotels through Google, you book your planes through Google. Now you're going to be booking your tours and activities, and that's been kind of a nightmare right now. Trying to like, but they're gonna. They're Google, man. That's what I'm saying. Like Google bots flying around, and like, you know, like it's going to be some futuristic shit, man. But I hate it, man. I truly do, because there's massive giant monopoly. But you know, having some type of free listing, like it just. The whole generation of the next generation of travelers, this is what they've grown up with. You know, like we're dinosaurs talking about TripAdvisor. You know, like,
so I'm
pulling your hair out.
I know.
Almost a little bit. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be like the harbinger of doom for OTAs.
But that's good to have, you know, the opinion. I will say, I'm going to give you my honest, you know, opinion, and especially for operators listening. Kevin's business is booked out. He really focuses on his brand. And you do very well with your direct market. And a lot of guys are not like Kevin O'Neill.
No.
You know?
No.
And so what do we say for the guys that have a lot of seats to sell? They're in a very competitive market, and they're looking for heavy distribution. Now, I tell people to always price your tickets to incorporate a commission, 20 to 25. Always price your tickets that way, especially if you're in a heavy reseller market like Key West, for example, which a lot of bookings are done through resellers and concierge. Price your tickets appropriately to be able to absorb a commission. If you're in a situation you have a lot of tickets to sell, you're a big boat, you're very competitive, it makes sense to use TripAdvisor. It makes sense.
I disagree. I think that you could find almost in any region where you're at, you can find a local, regional OTA that knows your market, that's dialed in. That it's, again, man, it's like I've dealt with a few of them.
What if you because I still think people go to TripAdvisor that have no idea about the area and they're looking to discover a new thing. You have to agree.
I do.
So if that means that they are able to get new customers now, it's a difference between getting new customers, but getting customers that you can't fulfill because you're booked out.
Go ahead and then phase them out as quickly as possible. Get your traffic, own your traffic. Stop renting your traffic. Because here's what we do. We rent traffic from Google Ads, okay? We completely buy traffic over and over and over again. Sorry, but from OTAs in general, okay? You guys actually aren't too bad about it. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, you guys include their emails. Or you have recently. I don't know. Recently, we've had access to the emails.
Oh, okay. Well, that's new to me.
Oh, no! Wait a minute!
But you know, when it comes... I think what we can kind of find common ground is if you use an OTA... Now, I agree. I think anyone that uses OTAs, if they're going to be heavy at them in the beginning...
Why are you killing your own brand?
I'm telling you.
TripShock and TripAdvisor are like two...
But I'm speaking in...
Blood and wine, man.
I'm speaking real right now. When you start out, you want, especially if you don't have the funding to go and spend, $50,000 a year on Google AdWords or buy billboards or buy magazines. Performance-based marketing is the best way to go when you first start, as long as you create your ticket prices where you can absorb a 20-25% commission. But I say to a lot of businesses, especially ones that don't want to dip their toes too deep into OTAs, is start at a level that you feel confident with. And then
can you start with Best on Key West? Can you start with Adrenaline? Can you start with TripShock? Why do you have to go to the Behemoth? Why do you have to use them? Can you go to Expedia?
You can go to any of them. You got to feel. But the thing is, Best on Key West does no good here in Destin. There's how many in Destin, Florida? Really,
but TripShock does great here.
True.
That's what I'm saying. You find your regional. You find your regional OTAs. And if you want to go with a national OTA, then I say go with Expedia.
But TripShock only can do so well for a business.
I don't know, man. Like I know a lot of guys that just use you that you're killing it with.
Yeah, it's true. But there are some
not even using TripAdvisor.
There are some activities that have for example, a water park that has.
Why are you big up in your competitor, man? What is going on here, dude? I'm fighting for TripShock here. I'm like TripShock, great. TripAdvisor, horrible.
Oh, I mean, there's situations where you would want.
Have you guys been acquired by TripAdvisor or something?
I don't know. But I mean, what if you're listening in a place that we don't have any presence in? I mean, I'm trying to give it to all people that are all over.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit before we even turned on the mic. I mean, how many little OTAs are out there, man? How many little getting little fucking, I don't know. What? I almost said bottom feeders, dude. I almost said it. I don't really mean to be harsh to OTAs, but you have a brand. You're not a commodity. True. We talked about it.
I feel like I would be giving someone poor advice that, let's say they're in a market that TripAdvisor is the only OTA and they have a great presence and I would feel bad telling someone not to use them when they have a lot of seats to sell, and TripAdvisor can bring new travelers.
And as I said, I agreed with you right up until that you can get rid of them. Right until you can circumvent them, own your traffic, get your email list built up, and get your customers. And those customers are your customers.
I agree.
You start customers.
In every business that I've worked with, I've seen them start either gently with OTAs or go really heavy, and then over years they start either raising their pricing or building the commission into their pricing, or they start just adjusting their inventory so they're not selling all of their stuff with the OTAs. So
here's my middle ground. I agree with you. Yes, in the beginning. So it's like I'm so in the game for so long. I'm in my third year of business. Everybody listen to me. But it has been a huge an end for me to go like, all right, well, I almost hired Werewolf, their online waiver, because their email list building capabilities were so awesome, and I didn't even care about look, here's a waiver. I'm like, no, if I'm going to, and then we didn't. COVID hit, TripAdvisor fell off because initially we were going to hire Werewolf just so I could phase TripAdvisor out quicker, and then TripAdvisor just phased themselves out because they just did so much crappy stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I can't remember exactly what happened. Like, it was like by happenstance that it fell off. We just never turned them back on. Like we had them on, something happened, and then we just left them off, and then they've been calling me off the hook, and I'm just like, I'm good, dude. Like, you cut off your call center. But my point being is that as a reseller, you have to price your product with those acquisition costs every single time. Now, and we all want the same thing. We all want to own our own traffic. Everybody wants that. But as a provider, and you're looking to sell those seats, the best way to sell those seats is to reduce your acquisition costs. Word of mouth is the cheapest way. And we live in the greatest time of word of mouth advertising. Like, no longer do you have to my Billy's cousin, sister. Like, no, they will do it for you for nothing on social media. And if you remind them of the great restaurants and the great times and the beaches and whatever it is and your company, you can build that TripAdvisor ecosystem organically and naturally without having to succumb to making your business a commodity when you're trying to build a brand.
So we got 5 minutes. And so if business listening, they're like, all right, I know maybe TripAdvisor. I need to start diversifying where I send my reviews. Where do you send people to leave reviews?
TripShock? No, I don't. They do.
Well, you got to book with TripShock to even leave a review.
That's right.
That's a great thing I like about it is that only we have
Google.
real travelers.
Google.
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, Google, dude. Of course.
If you are telling your customers to go to TripAdvisor and leave reviews, you need to stop.
Yeah.
You need to stop.
Yeah.
That's one thing I can fully agree with you on. Stop sending because TripAdvisor is building their ecosystem to book tours now. So if you are not on especially if you're not on TripAdvisor and you're telling people to leave reviews there, all you're doing is sending your future customers to your competitors.
Yeah,
flat out. See, I would never tell Kevin, I would never tell you, make sure all of your customers know to go to TripShock to leave reviews. It doesn't make any sense because we are here to bring you new business. We're not here to tell you to start building up, TripShock's future customers. You're going to tell them next time, you come, you're going to go to me or leave a review on Google, direct sources where you're not having to pay a commission. That's the problem now is that people are still telling TripAdvisor or customers go to TripAdvisor, leave reviews, and then they're just basically losing their future business because, there's still a lot of operators that use TripAdvisor to book tours. So
I'd like to look at the data on that. I would like to see as they cliff fall. And again, before COVID, I wonder how many users, I wonder how many people are still going to TripAdvisor. I wonder how strong that community is because I felt like I personally was a part of that community for years. I love TripAdvisor. I no longer am. I now put them with Yelp and not because it's just so damn hard to find the actual organic, real review. I want the best restaurant.
I want to see the top restaurants, but it's not about the top restaurants. It's what restaurants offer online booking.
Right.
Yeah, it's not about the best.
Who goes to Priceline or Orbitz to find the best anymore? Nobody.
Yeah.
You go to Google now.
Actually, Google is the only place that I know that I feel more confident now because TripAdvisor has 100%. Sold out. They sold 100%. Out. So, there's a lot of great things about the company. We're really crushing them right now. But,
if you are planning to sell to TripAdvisor, we can re-record this whole thing. TripAdvisor's off.
I know. I can't poo-poo them 100%. I will say the review thing really bothers me because I know ethically I would never do that to my customers or my suppliers and tell them, go leave,
I actually think this was a strategic move on your part to get me to poo-poo TripAdvisor.
Not at all. You're the one fighting back on you on it.
You did. Amazing. I know. I was like, wait a minute. What's happening here? I'm like, no, go to TripShock. You're like, no, go to TripAdvisor. Like, what the hell?
No. I would feel very wrong if there's a business with a lot of seats to sell and they're let's say they're half capacity and TripAdvisor does reach new customers. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but I have this conversation without going back and forth. I have a conversation with Key West all the time about their street vendors. They feel like the whole world would come to an end if they didn't have their people on the street, breaking, reeling in customers, come on, the guys on the Vegas Strip with the prostitution cards, man. That's really what it is down there when you're walking down Duval. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, no, you'll be completely fine. I asked the company, what are your guys' online sales like? And it was something like it was under 10%. And they're again, so their TripAdvisor is just their online street workers and they feel beholden to them. And it's 30 to 40%. And build that into your pricing model, but at the same point in time, understand that you could be getting 30 to 40% more for your product.
All right. We got a final thought.
Final thoughts.
1 minute.
1 minute. I will acquiesce my hatred of TripAdvisor. Enough to say that if you are a new business and that you are trying to fill seats and you do not know what you're doing when it comes to marketing, yes, use TripAdvisor sparingly. But if you can find a local, a regional OTA or reseller of your products that you know on Handshake that you end up doing podcasts with, I would much rather start a relationship there. But just keep in mind that as your business moves forward, you want to reduce your dependencies on any OTAs or anywhere that's cutting into your margins, you know.
Or make sure you raise your price and build it into your margin.
Thanks for editing my final thought, Greg.
Sorry.
The
final thought is supposed to be totally interrupted.
Spirited. This has been a spirited
actually,
episode.
I'm going to echo what you just said. The only other thing I would add is when your customers are leaving, make sure you let them know to leave your review on Google.
That's right.
Or Facebook.
I'd say Google.
Or Google more.
Google for sure. Facebook.
Google for sure. Yeah, or both. But definitely Google. Like, if you have a reservation system that you can route the person to any review service, route them to Google. Because Google, the more reviews on Google, it's going to help your SEO and everything else. So send to Google, and, really, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with TripAdvisor. I really hope that they get things together and they start adding value to operators instead of making, bullish terms and making arbitrary terms, really.
Going by the last few months of service, I don't see it happen. But hey, thank you for tuning into the Awkward Watersports Guys podcast in a spirited round of marketing and OTA topics. And then the next one, we're going to talk operations.
Oh, yeah. We got to get heavy in operations.
Yeah, because my back is like beet red, dude. Like from sunburn. I was out there for 15 hours yesterday getting in the dirt.
I'm going to have to hear that story about how you saved that guy.
Yeah, it was a lady.
Oh, a lady. All right. Well, great. Well, that's something, that's like a teaser for the
next week, man. The rescue.
All right. Appreciate you tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. If you're in the water sport industry, this is the podcast that brings the business perspective to parasailing, jet and ski boat rentals, sailing, snorkeling, and everything else. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Be sure to sign up to our email list at watersportpodcast.com and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.